And there we go. Yep, we are up and live. And there we go. Yep, we are up. All right. Yep. We are going. Where is my whiskey? Right there. Oh, I feel like my internet might not be very good tonight. Sorry guys, I think my internet might be a little bit messed up, but we will try to muddle through this. I think we're going to be a little bit slow. We are making red sauce tonight. This is something I make all the time. For those of you who don't listen to the podcast and don't know, actually it's Thursday, so you wouldn't find out till tomorrow. Austin had his baby. Austin and his wife welcomed another child. They're very excited about it. Coming from an Italian family, one of the things we always did when someone had a baby is we'd make them food and bring it over so the family could enjoy more time with the kid and didn't have to worry about making dinner. So we'd want something that we could make a lot of, make it fairly easy, and still taste really, really good. My family, that was a red sauce. Bunch of different ways to make it. This is the simplest way. It doesn't take that long cooking-wise. It takes a while on the oven or on the stove, but actual active going is not really that much. You're gonna get a delicious, absolutely delicious red sauce, which I guarantee everyone in your family will love. I've also got about 3 pounds of sausage that I'm gonna add to it. Now this is our rustic French onion sausage. Normally I'd put an Italian in there, but I didn't have any in my deep freeze and I didn't want to make it. I used all of my Italian sausage on Austin and his new baby and Jenny. So I'm using rustic French onion. I think it will taste very good. I'm surprised you aren't using ragu. You're a terrible person. You know what? That was a good one. Cheers to you, Tex. You amazing, terrible human. This is $17.92. Nice, inexpensive, and very good, in my opinion at least. So let's go over ingredients first. We're gonna need an onion and garlic. I've been going back and forth a lot recently on just using garlic, not using onion. But after talking to my mom on a wildly offensive phone call that lasted way too long, she convinced me that it was good enough for my grandma, it was good enough for me, so I'm back to using both garlic and onion in the same sauce. I found a couple of old Italian cookbooks that talked about you don't use them both in the same thing, and I started trying that. I really did like the results of it, but just like anyone else, I go back to what I'm used to. So I've got 8 cloves of garlic here, I've got a big onion, I have 2 whole tomatoes and 2 San Marzano peeled tomatoes, and then I've got some tomato paste. The tomato paste is an important part of it. It's going to add a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of sugar to it. We're also going to add towards the end, we're going to add just like a small handful of sugar. Also, you're not going to see me use any measuring cups. I won't be using tablespoons. Everything is by eyeball. And when we get to the point where everything's on the pot, I'll bring the camera over there and you guys can actually just look at the pot. Because one of the most important things we could do is all of these have full tomatoes in them, right? So I have this little tool. I'm sure most of you have something like it. Just a little Cuisinart. It's like a blender that I can put into a pot. So I'm going to want to bring that all to a boil. Then I'm going to back it down a little bit. I'm going to blend everything up. I'm going to bring it back up to a boil, and then I'm going to start adding other ingredients. Fresh basil. Absolutely essential for a good red sauce. You cannot use dry basil and have a really good red sauce, in my opinion. Now, there are other things like oregano where it has to be dry. If you try to use regular oregano in a red sauce, it's not going to taste right. Bill Wellman says he's already hungry. Don't do this to me. I apologize. We have to. Steven, hello. Ryan says I need Frank Sinatra playing in the background. So Tex had a really good idea. Ryan Jones had a really good idea that we try to go through movies and find like classic cooking scenes. And the one he brought up was Goodfellas, where they're cooking in the prison with the razor blade and the garlic. And that's a good idea. We are looking at ways to incorporate that. But yeah, so we've got rustic French onion, we've got fresh basil, we've got all the tomatoes, all the garlic, all of the onions we need. I've got Italian seasoning, oregano, black pepper, kosher salt, bay leaves. Bay leaves are very important for the last step. And a nice olive oil. You don't have to spend a ton of money on it. This is just good, 100% extra virgin olive oil. And we're only really adding that to saute our onions and our garlic. Now, when we're sauteing this, we want to cut it fairly thin. It'll saute a little bit better. It's not as important because we're going to use that little Cuisinart blender thing, and it's going to take care of most of that for us. But the onions and garlic will saute better if they're cut fairly thin. So I'm just cutting up this onion the best way I know how, which is just a cross hatch pattern 80% of the way through. And we're always going to put our onions in our olive oil before we do our garlic. Garlic will cook way, way quicker. And this burner's a little janky sometimes. There we go. I just have stainless steel pots here, so I'm going to get them very hot. I'm going to back it down before I add any type of oil to it. So I do a crosshatch pattern and then straight down. And then I've got really nice, small, little crosshatches of onion. And those will saute beautifully. When we're sauteing onions, we want to make sure that we're doing it basically until they're clear. There's a starch in the onion that really starts to release, I guess is the right word for it. And once we start seeing them clear up and they become translucent, that's when we know we're about ready, or just before they do that, we should add the garlic. Garlic cooks way faster than onion, and garlic has a tendency to burn, especially in the heats I'm going to be using. So we want to add garlic towards the end of the sauteing session. Well, I'm glad you're going to go eat. That is, hopefully you're eating something Italian. So I'm going to get my garlic prepared. I've already crushed it. I'm just going to chop it. I'm just getting into small little pieces. And again, you can use whatever olive oil you want, but I do recommend extra virgin olive oil. And the easiest way to do this, I'm by far, or definitely not the best at knife work, but the best way to do it is to grab on both sides of the actual blade with your thumb and your pointer finger, and then rest your palm on top of it. And then it's just a quick rocking motion. We'll do something slightly different when we get to the basil part, but we won't do the basil part until everything's been boiling and broken down a little bit. And unfortunately, we won't, well, not unfortunately, just remember not to add your sausage too early. These sauces are going to get really, really hot, and we don't want to overcook the sausage. So sausage is going to go in for probably the last like 40 minutes. All right, we've got everything. So noodle preference is a weird thing. I've been using fresh noodles recently. I've been making my own egg noodles basically, but that does kind of take a long time. So I just use Berea or a store brand. It really doesn't matter in my mind. If you have the time to make your own noodles, it's not hard. It just takes patience. The hardest part of it is the time it takes. All right, so we've got our pan nice and hot, or pot nice and hot. We're gonna turn it down a little bit. Just give that a few seconds to come down on heat a little bit. If you have stainless steel pans, pots, anything like that, get them really hot, bring it right back down to just above a medium heat, and they will become non-stick once you put the oil on. If you try to do it just as hot as it can get, you have a possibility of everything sticking to the bottom of the pan. And stainless steel pans are a pain in the butt to clean. I hate that. The only thing I hate cleaning more than that is cast iron. So we're gonna let that sit for just probably another 30 seconds or so. Then we're gonna add our oil, we're gonna add our onions, and we will get to sauteing. And I'll bring the camera over there so you guys can see all that. Penne. I don't know if you're talking about penne. So if you meant that, I thought you meant like what type of pasta. Yeah, no, I always use penne. I'm not an angel hair fan at all. Linguine if I want something that's long, but almost always penne. All right, let's see if we can get a good view down into there. I think that's pretty good. Yep, that is extremely hot. So we're gonna throw a nice amount of oil in there. We're gonna make sure the whole bottom is coated. And then, here we go. And again, we're gonna cook these just until they're translucent. Onion's a little bit harder to overcook than garlic, but you can do it. And because we heated it up and then cooled it down a little bit, this will all be very non-stick throughout the whole process. Cleaning this pot will be little more than spraying it out and adding a little bit of soap to get rid of all the oils. Got to get another thing over here. Hero 4 asks what's cooking in the kitchen. We're making a nice red sauce tonight. We're just going to keep moving it around a little bit, not too much. Pot was a little bit hotter than we would have wanted, but we can start to see a little bit of translucence, and the starches in the onions start to kind of come out of the onion, I guess. Oop, there's a little piece of papery skin. Let's get that out of there. They start to loosen up a little bit, and that's what we're looking for. We just want it to the point where they are not see-through, but translucent. Bucatini is what you were thinking of? Yeah. I'm not a fan of long pasta. It's a heretical thing to say in my family, but I like penne, I like the shorter pastas in general. All right, we're going to add in our garlic, and we had most of one large onion, and then 6 cloves, 6 big cloves of garlic. We're going to turn this back up a little bit. And that is for 2 full things of San Marzano and 2 just whole peeled tomatoes, and then also a little bit of tomato puree. And if you see off to the side here, I have some dried oregano, some Italian seasoning, some black pepper, some salt, and then we are also going to add in some basil, fresh basil. And we're going to watch this like a hawk, because few things taste worse than burnt garlic. So we want to make sure that we're not burning any of that garlic. So before I see anything that looks like a brown garlic, I'm going to take this off the heat. I'm actually going to push it to the back. And then we're going to start adding our tomatoes. But we're still good. Tex, what are you drinking tonight? I have my delicious 1792. All right, I'm going to take this to the back for just a minute. All right, and here we go. We've got 2 cans of peeled San Marzano right in there. Then just 2 generic cans of whole peeled regular tomatoes. We're going to hold off on adding the last bit of tomato, which is this tomato paste. Yes. Mix this all up. That handle's already getting fairly hot. And before we add anything else, we're not going to add a single other thing until we start seeing this boil. Now, once this boils, I am going to use this little Cuisinart blender, and we will mix 90% of that up. But we've still got fresh basil we've got to deal with. So while that starts to boil, we're going to chop some basil here. Easiest way to find fresh basil, in my opinion, is just buy a basil plant from your local grocery store. It should last you 2 or 3 sauces, depending on how much basil you like to use. I like to use a lot of basil. It's a great aromatic. Smells great, tastes great, and added benefit, it'll just make your house smell really nice. I'm trying to pick off the biggest leaves I can see. And this type of plant will live quite happily right in your sink for a week, as long as you're giving it enough water. Every couple of days, spritz it with a little bit of water, and you'll be fine. You can also, pot it in something outside if you want, but I think they're $3. They're not expensive. All right. Maybe a little bit more than that. My dad used to make a really good pesto sauce, and he had potted basil plants in our backyard. And one of my jobs was to go pick basil leaves. And he wanted an insane amount of basil for his pesto. Or maybe not insane, the correct amount. So, we're gonna crush this down, and then same motion we made initially. We're going to go through basically all of it. Making sure that we don't catch our backhand, especially since I have a golf tournament tomorrow. If I cut my hand, I will be very annoyed. Spin everything, come back through. And the smell of this is incredible. I absolutely love the smell of fresh chopped basil. And now we can just kind of hit it. For those of you who have herb scissors, it's a good place to use those. But this is what we want it to basically look like. And we're starting to boil over here. We're not quite there yet. That's a simmer. That's not a boil. Grab my other phone so I can see. Yep. At Tex, I absolutely add sugar to my sauce. I do it at one of the last steps I do. I'll grab a small handful of it and just toss it in there. Taste it for a little bit and then see if I need to add more. I have in the past added things like potatoes if I've made a too sugary sauce, but in general, just eyeball it. So this is still a simmer. We're just looking at some nice bubbles around the end or edges, but it's not really boiling until we start seeing some good pops in the middle. And my nice white back here is gonna get a little bit of damage, but we'll clean it up at the end. The most annoying thing, I don't think people hate cooking. I think people hate cleaning. It's the cleanup after cooking that is the most annoying thing. This is the Cuisinart. The only thing I hate about this is you can't just simply hit, where am I going here? Up or down. You have to hold this button. It's like a lock button on top. And then it goes. So we're starting to get some pops right in the middle there. If you can see, that's starting to bubble. We're getting pretty close. As soon as we start to see that actually start to release, we'll go ahead and give it a quick stir. We'll lower the temp dramatically, almost to off. We'll hit it with the Cuisinart, and then we're going to start adding some other ingredients. And again, this is one of the easiest ways to feed an entire family. It doesn't take very long. I mean, we'll be done with this live stream in probably 45 minutes to an hour. And there are 3-4 meals that you can feed a family of 4 on with this. And it keeps really, really well. All you have to do is make sure you've got a good Tupperware to freeze it in if you want. All right, so that stubborn little bastard doesn't want to pop there. We're watching it. Oh, and for people who are watching the live stream last Thursday when we got taken down, they actually told us what we were taken down for, and it's completely ridiculous. We didn't do anything that they said we did. Ryan asks, oh no, same thing. All right, so now we're starting to get multiple areas that are bubbling in the middle. And that one's getting ready to, you can see it like it's pulsing. So we're pretty close here. Red pepper flakes, I don't actually like them in my regular red sauce. Um, to me, if we're gonna make a spicy red sauce, let's just make a Fra Diavolo. And we don't. That's not what this is. So, all right, we are gonna cut that all the way down, and we're not going all the way with this. We're doing about 90%, and it's just pulverizing all those tomatoes. It's gonna look for a little bit like it's getting watery. But once we let it cook, all the way down, that'll all go away. All right, I'm gonna put this in the sink for now. And we are gonna add our basil. We're gonna turn the heat back up. We're gonna add our salt. We're gonna add a palmful, not that piece. That piece is way too big. A palmful of salt. We're gonna add a decent amount of black pepper, but not a ton. Then we're gonna add dried oregano and a little bit of Italian seasoning if I can find it. Oh, there it is. A little bit of Italian seasoning. We're gonna give it a good stir. We're gonna bring that all the way back up to a boil. We're then gonna use that Cuisinart again. Then we'll add our sausage. Now, you can, if you want, add your sausage. This thing is all off kilter. Parboil your sausage, basically. But that gets so much of the fat out of it. I want that fat in the sauce. Fat absolutely is flavor. Red wine, yep, absolutely. The downside to that, or why that's not possible, is I just used all my red wine on Monday. I made a red wine and black pepper dry cured salami that is sitting in my dry cured cabinet at work right now. We used a wine called Velvet Buck, which is a new-ish, no, it's brand new actually, winery out of California. We met them at Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Rendezvous, and it was absolutely delicious wine. Yep, I've got no mushrooms, absolutely no mushrooms. I like your Red Sox logo, or avatar, but I do not like the suggestion of mushrooms. They are a disgusting food. And I will not back down on that. But yeah, I've got about 2 pounds of some or 3 pounds of some sausage I made. This was actually something I pulled out of the freezer. It is rustic French onion. We're gonna add that as soon as we get to our second mix. As soon as we're done with this and blend it completely, we'll make sure that we add those. Those will cook up in no time. Mushrooms have such an odd texture. Yeah, okay, so I'm not a texture guy. I get accused of being a texture guy all the time because I hate mashed potatoes. When I say I hate them, I hate them. When I was a kid, my parents used to like lift up pizza and put mashed potatoes in between the cheese and the bread, and I would instantly spit it out. Like it tastes bad. But with mushrooms, it really is a texture thing because I've used umami powder in cooking before, which is ground up mushrooms, and I love the flavor of that. And there's plenty other like umami and mushroom flavor things that I love. I do not like the texture of a cooked mushroom. It's just, ugh, it's bad. It's not good. I'm gonna grab myself another glass of whiskey, I'll be right back. So this is the 1792 I was talking about. A nice, inexpensive, it's a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. And I think that whole large bottle is like $50. So, yeah, cooking whiskey, it doesn't get a ton better than that when you can. I mean, technically, I'm off the clock right now, but when you can get paid for doing stuff like this, it's not a bad gig. So this, I'm sending up with my girlfriend. This, or some of it, I'm sending up with my girlfriend. Her brother just had another baby, so I figured this would be a good tradition to start within the extended family. Not too smooth, has a nice bite to it. I'm not a huge fan of incredibly smooth bourbons. I want to have a good amount of heat going down. Trevor Taylor says, whiskey something my taste buds can't seem to like. Do you just raw dog it or do you mix? Oh no, yeah, no ice, like just neat. So I was exactly like you. I despised all dark liquors basically. Then I was at a Pass It On Outdoor Mentors event, and their charity in Kansas. Well, they're beyond Kansas now, but they started in Kansas. That focuses on getting underprivileged kids out in the field, like giving them a chance to hunt, to have an experience with hopefully a positive experience with a firearm. It's kind of what made me love them. And they're run by just absolutely great people. I went to an event with them and I won a whiskey package. There was a bottle of Eagle Rare in there. There was a bottle of Ballantine. There was a bottle of Weller's 107, a couple other things. And I think it was the Weller's that I tasted for the first time. I was like, okay, this isn't terrible. And then just over time, it's become, that's the only liquor that I drink at all anymore. I still drink beer, Miller Lights or Dos Equis. But yeah, no, whiskey is the only liquor I drink anymore. Irish whiskeys are, I mean, they've been doing it for longer than anybody, so they know what they're doing. There's absolutely no question about that. So we've got some good bubbling here, but we're not quite at the point where we've got a nice, really constant boil. So we're gonna let that keep going for a while. A couple other things. Once I blend it the rest of the way, I will go ahead and add the sausage. I will then let it cook for probably an hour, somewhere around that. And then I'll throw bay leaves in for the last 15 minutes or so. Don't eat the bay leaves, peel them out or pick them out, and don't ever add the bay leaves before you start or do your second or even first blend. They have a bitter taste to them. They do something to the sauce that's really, really nice. My grandmother used to put carrots in her sauce, like little baby carrots. I'm not sure what it did. I think it was a replacement for sugar, because I never saw her add sugar. But my grandmother's unbelievably secretive about what she put in her food. Like to the point where when she died, people fought over her recipe cards, only to find out she lied to everybody and told everyone to do something slightly different so none of them would be as good as hers. It's the most devious and genius thing I've ever heard of, and I love her so much more because of that. No, Tex, I went and actually, I saw a display at Dillon's that was like new Pringles flavors or whatever, and none of them were Miller Lite. So I was a little depressed by that. Not depressed, just sad. All right, so we've got a better boil. We're starting to go over here. Here, I'll show you. I'm gonna move it back just a little bit. Some of that is because the pot is not completely centered. So move that back. Within a minute or two here, we'll see that nice lighter red foam start to spread across the top. Once that happens, we'll get our second blend in. We'll add our sausage, and then it's just a waiting game, unfortunately. We've got Trevor asking, food is a passion of yours? Just found the yeah. So I grew up in a weird family in a lot of ways. Cooking, my mom's a great cook. I will take nothing away from her. She makes some of my favorite meals. But like when somebody, like we had a big event or something, my dad cooked. So I grew up cooking being a masculine thing. And then I found Walton's about 11 years ago, started working with them, and got into the sausage, jerky, summer sausage, snack stick, all that stuff. It just kind of upped it another level. But yeah, no, I've known how to make this since I was probably 9 or 10, something like that. Just paying attention to what the adults did. I was always curious about food. And if you can't tell, I'm a big fan of food. Does cooking the spoon add to the flavor? Yes. A wooden spoon being left in your sauce absolutely increases the flavor. This spoon has been to the wars. I'll show you. You can see it's been left way too close to the heat way too many times. But I mean, it's a wooden spoon. That's what it's for. So at Walton's, we sell meat processing equipment and supplies. We don't actually sell any sausage. Just basically what you need to make your own sausage, jerky, snack sticks, anything like that. Both from a retail perspective and a commercial perspective. We do both of them. We sell to everybody. All right, so if we look back here, we've got a nice boil going here. So we're going to lower our temp, give it a nice mix. We can see we've still got a good few whole tomatoes in there. We're going to get our Cuisinart blender thing again. Get that in there. And just get the rest blended. All right. So now we're going to start adding in our 3-ish pounds of sausage. And this sausage is going to cook fast. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but anyone who wasn't here, I know some people like to parboil their sausage. But that's going to cook a lot of the fat out of it. If we do everything in here, in this one pot, we're going to keep all that fat right where it needs to be, which is in our food. And, as we've said a million times, fat is flavor. And what a huge surprise. The 200-pound monster comes around once the sausage comes out. What? Did you smell some sausage? Is that what got you up out of your bed? He would like to eat. Yep. So we got more and more, I don't know if popular is the right word, but our sales during the pandemic or whatever increased dramatically. I think because more people were worried about where their food was coming from. Bruce would like to say hello. Or maybe he wouldn't. So yeah, power to people who know how to feed themselves, know where their food comes from. And a weird thing with me is I'm a weird person. I love cooking for other people. I love all of that. I don't like other people touching my food all that much. right? So I'd rather make something myself if I can control something from A to Z. I'm gonna like that food way better than if somebody else made it for me. I don't think it's a control thing. I think it's just like a little tick, like maybe a little tiny bit of tism there. But yeah, so you're gonna have to go lay back down. My neighbors must be outside. He loves my neighbors. But so here we are. We're gonna let this cook for about an hour and a half. Then we're gonna add a handful of sugar. We're gonna add some bay leaves, and we'll let it cook for another like 20, 30 minutes at that point. Pull our bay leaves out, and we're gonna have a perfect, beautiful, I don't know if it's certainly not Sicilian. I think it's Northern Italian red sauce. No, text how to eat your food. So it's one of those weird things like where if I know the person and trust them, I guess I'm happier doing it. Like it's also part of the reason where I very rarely order meat when I go out to a restaurant. Like I almost always order something that like is sauce based. It just feels different to me. I don't know why. Again, a little bit crazy. Something's wrong up in the brain. But what can you do? We're happy. So I will post some pictures of this sauce on pasta as I'm eating it to Meatgistics so everybody can see it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. There's no live stream Monday. There will be a live stream next Thursday. And not sure exactly what we're going to make yet. I'll try and post something on Meatgistics to see what you guys want to see me make. I've been wanting to do a reverse sear version on my Pit Boss griddle, but I can't quite figure out how to do it yet. So I'm going to spend some time trying to figure that out. But if anybody really wants to see me make anything specific, let me know through Meatgistics. See you guys.